think we have got to move. We've got to stop pointing at different reasons why it's not happening, and move. Take a bit of a risk, take a bit of a chance, but keep moving forward. Because otherwise 2035 will hit you and you've not achieved it.
Joining us today is Guy Chalkley, CEO of Endeavour Energy. Guy has over 30 years' experience in infrastructure, utilities and energy sectors, and also sits on multiple boards. Under his leadership, Endeavour Energy has been focused on Australia's transition to a future of sustainable energy. Welcome, Guy. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, sustainability is a business imperative. It's also a core value at Salesforce. You've been a leading voice in the sustainable energy transformation. Can you share a little bit about your journey?
And I think you've seen sustainability really evolve in the last few years. I think we really struggled to get it embedded in the business. So we were really looking for a driver that really got it through the business. And it actually came out of finance. So the first thing we actually did, we were the first network to do a sustainability linked loan, which has basically got sustainability metrics attached to it. You get a better rate if you actually achieve your sustainability linked loan KPIs. And it was interesting having that in the business actually drove people to say, this is what I need to achieve. And so I actually got it embedded deeper into the business than without. And I think where that sort of took us from that perspective is they were great KPIs, but we hadn't got a clue how we were going to measure them. So we did sort of signed up for the loan without really appreciating how we were going to measure them to meet the metrics. And hence, working with Salesforce, that was the key to us because we actually got the visibility of the metrics. We were able to push it down into the business to say how you're performing. We were able to push it to depot and get a bit of competition between various depots. And so it just makes it so much more visible for the whole business to actually achieve it.
Now, Guy, you mentioned using Salesforce. I believe you're using Net Zero Cloud to power your carbon emissions accounting platform. Can you share a little bit about how that works?
We managed to sort of work really well with Salesforce. They worked really well with us to sort of understand what we had to do. We pretty much started with nothing. We pretty much started to say, how are we actually going to capture this information? Got it to go live. And I think from now, it's just really iterations of how we improve that. I think next iterations are probably working with our actual suppliers. So we've actually got that information coming through, working with contractors to make that.
And obviously all of this is based on data. And so you're using data for measurement, for understanding your customer needs, and now increasingly for AI. Tell us a little bit about your data strategy.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think if you joined a utility business, and these businesses have been around for 100 years, they're very asset intensive. And so it's interesting because when you join, they'll say there's not a lot of data. If you ever go into these businesses,
huge amounts of data.
You will never see so much data. And it's always been internalized. It's always been on the asset. And so shifting then those businesses into something that then becomes much more customer obsessed and actually saying, what does the customer want? What does that customer need? As opposed to this is what you're gonna get. I think we were deliberate in creating a data function that was separate to IT. In some respects, IT was leading data rather than data was leading IT. And we said if we create the empowerment for data with the same sort of hierarchy, then data's going to lead IT. So you're then going to say, what do you want? And then IT can give you the solution,
business,
as opposed to the other way around. So
yes.
get a business-led, but get it business data-led. I sort of said internally, I think you were a business that was, let's be brutally honest, you were asset-obsessed. You were not customer-obsessed. If you're asset-obsessed and customer-focused, can you become asset-focused and customer-obsessed? Can you just flip it a little bit? But the bit in the middle is to make it successful, you've got to be data-obsessed. That's the bit that's probably the glue that gets it together.
It's the new oil.
And I think if we're honest, that's maybe the bit we missed. I think people have worked out that you need the insights to do it. And therefore you need to understand what data you need to collect. You need to understand what data is going to give you the insights. And that's not going to be just your data. That's going to be the external data that you've got to overlay it. And that's what's playing out in the industry. There's so much data now that's with the customer. My customers got their own generation. They've got rooftop solar.
How has the consumer changed now that you're offering this as well? Like you're empowering them so much more.
We can't do a transition to renewable, energy in 2035 if we don't realise that the customer's the one that's going to get you there. So we're not going to do it pushing it one way. We've got to make sure it comes back the other way as well. So I think the consumer possibly changed before us. So I think that was one of the challenges. I don't think we really picked up that the consumer had changed and we hadn't. So, we were still talking about a customer. I said, you probably need to stop talking to them just as a customer talking to them as a generator, because that's what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
And so
They're an asset for you guys.
and people say the customer's your hero in the industry. Well, they are if you use it.
Yes. I love that the customer's evolved, the thinking internally is involved. What's also evolving is the landscape we're in. Obviously, innovation is not stopping, and especially in the area of AI. So what do you see as the potential for AI, either with your business or interacting with your customers?
Don't jump to the AI is your solution. Like, I think you should jump to AI as your enabler to the solutions. And I think people are using AI maybe at the moment to solve a past problem. And you've got to actually use AI to actually say your fundamental business model has changed. So it's not just going to make how you do maintenance better. You're actually just going to do the whole business better. So you're trying to push people to say think forward, not just solve backwards problems, because the transitions really happen. So yeah, get your head into the future.
So I'm sensing leadership in here is a big part of your transformation here as well. Tell us a little bit about, what are you actively doing, or what are you trying to instill within the organisation?
I think leadership, whether that's the top 7, the top 70, the top 700, whatever it is, I think the higher up from a hierarchy you go in an organisation, I've always said then you become leaders, not technical experts. So the person that you put into operations or asset or HR doesn't have to be the expert in any of those, but they do need to be the best leaders. They do need to be the ones that can bring teams together. They do need to be the ones that can push and to accept change and push change. And so there's just a different perception. And then if that's your top, exec table, then your senior leaders should be on the same page. And so you've got to be comfortable when you get to those positions that you're not going to be the expert in the room anymore. So you've actually got to be comfortable that somebody next to you that might not be your level might know more than you.
Yeah, have
and you've got to be
smarter around you.
You've got to be comfortable with that. And that's not as easy, in terms of what it is. So and so I think whenever you sort of move to new businesses, you assess what what you're going to get, and you're going to change a bit, you're going to keep a bit, you're going to adapt a bit, and I think that's what plays out.
Changing gears here, you recently shared quite a personal story quite publicly. Maybe you could share a little bit, if you're comfortable, and why you did that.
I feel it was far too personal at times, wasn't it? But it helped me, because I think it helped clear my mind. I had a seizure at the end of January this year. My brain decided to have a double seizure about 10 days later. You sort of go through them. I was fortunate in terms of really an outcome. I think the most common diagnosis for when that happens when you're in your late 50s is you're going to sit in front of a consultant, and they're probably going to say you've got a brain tumour. That's the most common diagnosis. I had a serious bleed behind my right eye. Like, my first operation didn't go the way it planned, so I ended up being blind in my left eye. I think it teaches you to be positive. It teaches you that probably the person in the bed next to you is worse off than you are. So you'll get dark moments. You'll get moments where you'll get the why me, we're all human. And you probably got to get really quickly to the other side, but you could be the one on the other side of the bed. Yes. So you've got to try and stay middle road, grounded. And you never know until something happens. So I definitely say don't judge anyone else for what they go through, but you never know what it happens. But you hope you deal with it the way you your values have brought you up to deal with it. And I think that worked out well for me. I think I did the videos because people knew what was going on, but they were all in different sort of stages of information, what might have gone on and what hadn't. And it was just a way to clear the air to say, look, this is where I am.
And you were sharing those publicly for the audience tuning in. That wasn't just videos to your team. That was pretty much on the open web. Yeah,
because people know you, and you've got so many people giving you good comments and being very genuine about how are you sort of thing. So you wanted to give it back. You physically haven't got the time to go back to everyone. I used to joke I can't write at the moment because I can't see in my eye. So give me a bit of slack here. And so it was a really easy mechanism to do it. And it's I think it's worked. It certainly worked from my own mental state, I think, from one perspective. But I think it's worked because it's allowed other people to come to me with what they're suffering. So they'd be much more open, I think, on things they probably wouldn't have even told you that's going on. I think being open and honest probably gets you further than being sort of closed and reserved.
Yes.
So no one's going to judge you.
Not at all.
Just put it out there and let people know what's going on.
Now, looking ahead, we have, you mentioned, big goals at your organisation, the next 10 years, 2035, but all organisations have goals, all countries have goals. How do you think we're going, and do you think we'll get to where we need to be?
Look, I think if I look at the energy sector, and I've sort of said it publicly anyway, I think we've been slow. And you've got to increase your pace to get there. In terms of a transition to net zero, you've got to be honest in terms of what you need to do to get there. So you can achieve it, but it's pretty easy to blink and 2 years passes by, and you probably haven't got 2 years to waste. I look 2035. I'm 70 in 2035, and like
still young.
You try to put yourself into that space, and it's coming quick. Like it is coming quick. So I think the solutions are there. There's some pretty big projects that you've got to achieve to get there. I think if I really push that globally up, and that's the whole world is chasing the same thing at the same time. So when you put that into perspective, you've got people, capability, numbers, procurement, all of that. So I think we have got to move. We've got to stop pointing at different reasons why it's not happening, and move. Take a bit of a risk, take a bit of a chance, but keep moving forward. Because otherwise 2035 will hit you and you've not achieved it. I think people have worked out that you've got a responsibility to sort of leave a legacy that's better for your kids than it was for you.
Yes.
Because they're screaming out for it.
Well, I was about to say, is this an opportunity for the younger generation to come in and push us, or should we be the ones leading the way, or is this all of us together?
I've said, it's really it's sort of embarrassing to say it, but like you're sort of nearly 60, and I always say that there's a lot of old men in blue suits that have been around for a long time, which is experience is good, but you need the diversity coming through. You need the younger generation coming through. It's always interesting when somebody wants to be mentored, they look for someone old. I actually look for someone young to be mentored by, because I actually
teach you all the new things.
I learn more from them than so you've got to work both ways, haven't you? So I think we've got to get a bit better mix, and that's to really make it happen. I think you've got to put people at the top table that has got a different way of thinking, that's not embedded in the past, that genuinely wants to achieve what's got to be achieved.
Well, Guy, I hope you do hang around, because we absolutely need folks like you, trailblazers, to lead the way. Of course, we'll bring in the next generation as well. Thank you again for obviously everything you've done with us at Salesforce, but also for your generosity in spending time with our audience today.
Thank you.